I personally believe that everybody is a superhero at something. You have to discover what that is and what makes you great or what makes you feel great about something that you can do. And I think everybody has that kind of inner quality, and it's a matter of discovering it.
You basically took something that, The Simpsons made fun of as being like the capital sign of being a complete loser.
Right.
And then have turned it into being like every dreamboat alive, and all of the most attractive actors and actresses couldn't, be happier if they got a role in a superhero movie.
I grew up reading comic books and collecting sports cards as a kid. I have 3 brothers, so it really was a very kind of pop culture family growing up. But, if you read comic books or if you were into superheroes back in the mid-'80s, if you were considered a geek or a nerd, you might as well call you a loser or an outcast or somebody who just doesn't fit the norm. You weren't into sports, you weren't into girls, but yet, you were into these fictional characters. Yeah. It was very a derogatory term.
So can you talk a little bit, you said this wizard came out of you not being able to find a job when graduating in a depression.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2008, which for anybody who doesn't know was also an equally fun time.
Absolutely.
And right now is not a particularly great time to be entering the entry-level career force. And so what was that experience like, having to figure out, you'd done all the things you were supposed to do.
Right.
And then that thing that everyone was like, go to school,
right,
be a good boy, don't do whatever, and your life will kind of happen?
Yeah.
What was it like to have that not happen for you?
Well, it was a rough experience because it was back in 1990. I graduated college and there were no jobs. So I had to move back home with my parents, and and even back then it was like one of those like, is this my life now? That like my parents are still paying my bills, and what am I going to do? And I literally wound up working for my mom at the store. Working directly with customers, trying to sell things to them, was not my forte. So I wound up starting a magazine, a newsletter actually. We had a lot of customers that were like big comic book fans. The guy in the comic book store who ran our comic books ultimately became our editor-in-chief. He was a really funny guy, incredibly smart about the subject matter, and all of a sudden it's like I got out and I'm like, I love the publishing business and I love the comic book business, and it's like, well, I'm in the store, I'm bored out of my mind, I can't get a job, no one's gonna hire me, so how can I put all these things together? And because I had a computer and a photocopy machine, for just me and my time on a computer and paper, I could print stuff out and just hand it to the customers, and it worked. And I can get the customers, the good ones, to write articles for us. And they would love to do it because they're high school kids or they're right out of college and they get to write about comic books. So I organized all these people to write stuff. And all of a sudden it was like, for not a lot of money, you can kind of pull all these resources together. And it was amazing because everybody was excited about it, because we were all kind of at that point where it was like, let's just do something fun. And then we get the feedback, because then when we handed it to the customers, and let's say we handed out 300, 400 flyers or whatever, all of a sudden the comic book sales would go like this. So we did more and more, and then all of a sudden it became like, wow, if we feel this way, there's got to be a lot of other people out there that feel this way. The next biggest challenge that we had was, I'm a lot older than I look, and when I was 21, I looked like I was 14. So a lot of people also didn't take me seriously. When I would call up all the Marvels and the DCs, and I couldn't even rent a car, and let alone, I was calling them up on the phone saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this, and they were also like, who's this kid? That all of a sudden he's doing all this stuff. Well, I remember like literally 20 plus years ago, I'd finally get a meeting at an advertising agency, and I'd meet with some really great brands. I'd be sitting at a table, with like literally like 20 media buyers in front of me representing like the greatest brands, and I'd be talking about superheroes. And they would literally be laughing at me. Like you could hear the snickering. Like, I mean, like I'm there, I'm in the room, and you're whispering to each other, and then you're laughing, and I could see that. And, you know.
What did that feel like? Like, how do you handle that?
You know, the irony was that, like, I walked away more like they don't understand. Like, I never walked away from those things thinking that I don't know what I'm doing. I always walked away thinking that they don't know what they're doing, you know, and I think I kind of always had that approach.
What would you say failure means to you? Or how has it shaped your journey and your path?
So I joke with people all the time that if you added up kind of my win-loss column,
Yeah.
I would be at like 99.9% failure, you know, 0.1% success. But that's because I take a lot of chances. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody about anything. I don't care. You know, if they like it, great. If they don't, great. I send out 50 emails a day, and maybe 3/4 of them go unanswered forever, you know, or I can't get meetings with people, or I reach out to people out of the blue and they don't, and I don't even care. You get enough kind of churn of things that happen that those successes far exceed the failures.
And so how would you define failure?
I think failure is not taking that chance to begin with. Failure is this kind of mark of bad. But ironically, you know, every time I meet with investors or people that I want to work with, you know, the fact that I've had failure is actually more appealing to them because they know I know how to deal with it, or I know how to handle it, or that I've been through it before. Because when you're in a circumstance where something isn't working, if you've always had things that have worked, and then all of a sudden you're faced with something that doesn't work, you also have to have the muscles to be prepared for that. But it was always the extra things that I did that became my career. You can always make a living at something that you're passionate about. I feel like almost everything that I've tried to do has grown organically. It's rarely been something like, oh, I want to buy this big thing and run it and blah, blah, blah. Almost everything I've done has been out of an organic process of me wanting to explore something. And I think that's really what I try to impart to people all the time, is really just to get started, you know, and people think that it has to be this big thing right out of the gate. And most things never start that way. Most things really start because you have a personal interest, or you have you have some excitement level for something, and then it becomes contagious and infectious to all the people around you.